Okay, so if you're a fashion brand owner, an e-commerce manager, a digital marketer, I want you to think for a second. What's the single biggest hurdle you face when you're selling online? And here's a hint. It's not about getting traffic to your site. It's not even really about having a super smooth checkout process. Nope. It's something way more fundamental. Something that happens in your customer's mind right before they either hit buy or just click away. And there it is. That's the one, the imagination gap. It all comes down to that one tiny nagging question. Yeah, but how's it gonna look on me? That single moment of doubt is the ghost in the machine of online fashion. It's what fuels abandoned carts, and even worse, what leads to those incredibly costly returns.
So let's actually break down how expensive this little gap in the imagination really is. Because we're not just talking about a fuzzy customer experience problem. We're talking about a direct hit to your bottom line.
This right here explains the whole problem perfectly. On one side, you've got the customer's dream, right? The perfect look they see on the model, the one they imagine for themselves. And on the other side, you've got the reality that too often shows up in a box. The fit is off, the drape isn't right, and the expectation is totally shattered. That disconnect is where your profits just bleed out. And you can see how it creates this awful domino effect. It all starts with those high return rates. And returns aren't just lost sales, they are a logistical nightmare. You're paying for shipping both ways, for restocking. It's a huge drain. And that same uncertainty is what causes people to just abandon their carts in the first place, which means your profits are constantly eroding. But what if you could close that gap? What if you could give every single customer the confidence of being in a fitting room, but from their own couch? Well, this is exactly the problem that new technologies are racing to solve. And one of the biggest players leading the charge is a platform called Haptic Outfit. Now, it's really important to get this straight. We're not talking about those clunky, old-school virtual overlays that looked like paper dolls. This is a whole different beast. This tech uses a dynamic AI-powered engine to create a genuinely photorealistic simulation of how clothes will look and move on a person. It's a huge leap forward. So how does it actually work for the customer? I mean, what does it feel like? The whole goal here isn't just flashy tech. It's to make the experience incredibly simple and deeply personal. It's all about delivering personalization, but at a massive scale. For the user, the journey is just easy. It's intuitive. First, they choose a model that actually represents them. Then, they browse your collection just like they always do. But here's the magic part. With one click, they can virtually try that item on. The whole point is to give them an instant, realistic preview of the fit and just take all the guesswork out of it. And the personalization goes deep. We're talking about creating a true body double here. A customer can upload their own photo for a super accurate look, or they can pick from a whole library of hyper-realistic AI models and then filter them by age, height, weight, you name it. The system then creates a virtual model that isn't just some generic avatar. It's a close stand-in for the customer themselves. So yeah, that personal connection is awesome, but let's talk numbers. Let's talk about the bottom line. How does this really cool, engaging experience translate into actual, tangible results? Let's look at how this can turn one of your biggest cost centers, returns, into a serious profit driver. The data is pretty striking. When you give people a realistic preview of how a garment is going to drape and fit on their specific body type, you tackle the number one reason for returns head-on. And the results? A massive, measurable drop in return rates. That is a huge financial and logistical headache just gone. And here's the other side of that same coin. What happens when you replace a customer's uncertainty with genuine confidence? Well, they don't just add to the cart. They actually follow through and complete the purchase. Seeing is believing, right? Well, in e-commerce, believing leads directly to conversions. When you put it all together, it's just a win-win-win. You slash your return rates, which saves a ton of money. You skyrocket your conversion rates, which makes a ton of money. And maybe most importantly, you create this unforgettable experience that builds real brand loyalty and keeps customers coming back again and again. So look, this isn't just some cool new tool or a passing fad. What we're looking at here is an inevitable shift in how online fashion works. This is really the next evolution of the industry. This quote just hits the nail on the head. For people in the know, the conversation has completely changed. It's no longer a question of if this kind of tech becomes the standard, but simply when. And the brands that get on board now are the ones who are going to be seen as the leaders, while everyone else plays catch-up. And that leaves us with one final thought, really. The technology to finally bridge that gap between the computer screen and the dressing room mirror, It's not sci-fi anymore. It's here. So the real question for every brand out there is no longer just how you sell clothes online, but how you sell confidence. And the brands that figure that out, they're the ones who are going to own the future of fashion.